experts here from different organizations. And I would like to welcome both our panelists, moderators, and also the participants today as we commence this session. So I would like to start with a short introduction of why we are here and who we are as well. So without further ado, I consider this session started on unlocking the power of intra-Africa trade. So the reason why we are here is because we want to explore opportunities, also explore strategies in which Kenyan MSMEs can be able to tap into intra-Africa trade, as well as be able to create networks that will help them in engaging in cross-border trade. And that is the biggest reason why we are having this webinar. So I would like to request everybody who has their mic on to mute themselves so that we can have one meeting. So please, if you have your mic on, kindly mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I think then we can continue. So I'd like to start with a short introduction, first of all, of who we are. And as I mentioned, I'm Brian Derito from ASSEK, and ASSEK is the Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya. We're a membership association, a national membership association that works with entrepreneur support organization empower them, and also do a lot of policy work around work that really needs, or rather creating an environment that everybody can coexist and have a better working environment in terms of business and also other activities that they undertake. And we are 85 members strong right now, spread across the country from Nairobi, the northern region of Kenya, to the coast, the western region of Kenya, and also the east as well. So for the ESOs that we work with, they cut across different sectors such as agriculture. We have others in e-mobility, others in fintech technology, and they work to provide services, capacity building services. Others offer access to finance to entrepreneurs across the board. So allow me to share a short screen and to show you why this webinar is important. This webinar is important because we are currently implementing a project called the MSME Olympiad. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. The MSME Olympiad, which is a project that is focused on helping MSMEs across the country be able to access or rather to start engaging into African trade. So we aim to create one African market. And we have partnered with ICL which is a youth-focused NGO that contributes to the realization of socioeconomic development and empowerment of individuals. I have spoken about ASSEK extensively, and this partnership has now helped create one program that looks to enhancing the capacity of the MSMEs and the MSME ecosystem, primarily focusing on intra-Africa trade. And what we are doing here is we are addressing challenges faced by these MSMEs in accessing markets and other resources that are required to expand their operations. And this includes finance. The other thing is this program, acceleration program, is suited or rather aimed at helping these businesses access at least a 4-month enterprise acceleration program, which will now include access to a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem, including coaching and support links to finance and markets. The other thing, it will also help them participate. It will give them a chance to participate and exhibit at the Kenya Innovation Week that is upcoming within a few months. And the program will have different components embedded, such as training, coaching. We'll have industry mentorship therein, and peer community, and then finally have intra-Africa trade. This is not to forget that we'll also have a lot of inter-county government support, which will help the MSME have streamlined services within within the regions that they work. So we are targeting 150 MSMEs across Machakos, Nairobi, Laikipia, Bomet, Turkana, and Uasin Gishu. And this will cut across sectors such as agro-processing, education, climate and environment, trade and tourism, construction and housing, tech, creative, beauty and fashion, and also manufacturing as well. I will talk about the application process later on, and including the eligibility criteria. But seeing that this is just an overview of the program, allow me to introduce our moderator today, Dennis Okora, to take us through the other part of this program, which is the panel discussion that is looking into how we can unlock the power of cross-border trade within Africa and even beyond. Dennis, I will not want to take much time. The stage is yours. Please welcome.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that wonderful introduction that sets the context for all of us. Good morning for those who are in Nairobi and those who are joining us from other parts of the country. You can adopt the greeting that applies to your time zone, which might be afternoon or good night or good afternoon. So it's great to be here today and to have this wonderful conversation. Great that you've made time to join us here to have this conversation that is defining all facets of life and really makes us proud to be African, because the centrality of our conversation today puts us at the center of global economics, global politics, and development, because the Africa Free Continental Trade Area is one of the biggest things to have happened in our continent. And you being here this morning is a great testament that you are keen to know what is happening and how importantly we can plug into those opportunities. I have the single honor of being the moderator to facilitate this conversation with a wonderful panel that I will be introducing in a short while. But just before we begin, maybe this conversation about what is called the AFCFTA is a new thing to you. Don't worry, you're in the right place. But just for context, before I bring in the panel, is that the Africa Free Continental Trade Area was put in force about 4 years ago, somewhere, I guess in May 2019, when it was brought to force. And the idea is pegged on what is called as Agenda 2063, where the Africa Union is trying to forward think on what the future of Africa looks like. And one of the future that Africa Union is looking at is to looking at how can they create a common marketplace which they think that will unlock many opportunities and put African development into a next level by creating opportunities, by creating jobs. As you may know, Africa is one of the continents with the youngest populations, and these populations will definitely need jobs. So the Africa Union is thinking ahead and saying, why don't we create a common marketplace that can give us this push that we had? So among the countries in Africa, we also have the regional economic communities. You might call them regional economic blocks, which contribute to about 55 countries in total, which bring together the 1.3 billion Africans who are citizens of the various countries, if you may like. So this is a very, very important conversation that has been going over the years. And for us to be here today is to really look at how as SMEs, how as policymakers, how as entrepreneurial ecosystem enablers being here, what can we do to make this happen? And the African Union thinks that if this is successful, it could unlock an opportunity of about 3.5 billion USD in terms of GDP. That's quite huge, and this is what the opportunity is there. So the FCFTA, in a summary, is basically looking at avenues on how they can eliminate barriers to trade, but also boosting avenues that can unlock trade by driving what they call value-added production to create this opportunity. So in a nutshell, that's what the ACFTA is all about. And to join me in this conversation, I have 4 eminent panelists who are here with us to just help us to understand this further. I will ask them just to put their microphone on, and I'll start the introduction by introducing to you. They will greet us and tell us what they do, and then we'll begin from there. I'll bring on board Dr. Wilmot Allen. Just could you just put on your microphone and tell us your name, what you do, and then we'll invite the rest of the panelists. Welcome, Dr. Allen.
Thank you, Dennis. Greetings, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this important session. I'm Wilmot Allen, and I've lived here in Kenya for almost 9 years, and I wear a few different hats as an investor, as an entrepreneur. But I'm here today on behalf of a company I founded called Venture Lift Africa, which is a venture studio, which means we help accelerate and scale companies both within Africa regionally and across out of Africa to the rest of the world. But we also do something that we think will further advance that growth, which is connect the African enterprises, SMEs, MSMEs, to diaspora resources, whether that's money, that's trade, that's joint venture partnerships. We've seen that work over the several years that I've been working here in Kenya, and decades engaged in this effort. And we also have an angel investor platform to provide financing to companies. And for the purpose of this conversation, we have a trade platform as well, where we support and execute Intra-Africa Trade deals. We support, execute, and advise on something called the African Growth and Opportunity Act trade, which is duty-free trade from Africa to the U.S., as well as have a network of advisors, 120 across Africa and in the U.S. We believe in the power of SMEs and MSMEs to drive jobs, to create wealth, and we're here to support that today. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Allen, sorry. Dr. Allen will also be helping us unpack the issues to do with financing and opportunities along those lines to help us unlock the opportunities in FCFTA. I'll also bring on board Dr. Hilda Muteshi, just to introduce herself and tell us what she does. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and everyone else. My name is Dr. Muteshi Hilda. I am a consultant in marketing and branding. As a consultant with ASSEK, we focus mostly in seeing that our SMEs and micro enterprises can survive beyond their infancy. We appreciate the fact that for an organization or an SME to go beyond the borders to export market, it must be able to survive within its country. So we focus on the internal organization, their capacity, their efficiencies, and their production and how they organize their business. We look at their marketing and branding. We look at their management, their business models, and we provide this type of guidance to see that our SMEs are able to thrive and they are able to be competitive out there. And we also look at them we support them through capacity building to be able to see that they're able to attract other investors and the type of funding that is required. So today, I'm glad to be part of this conversation, and I would like to say that Africa free trade presents both an opportunity and a threat to our SMEs. So I'll be diving into what does it mean to our SMEs so that they don't see free trade as a threat, but they are able to see it as an opportunity to thrive and move beyond the borders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. I'll welcome next Pauline. Welcome, Pauline Okubasu.
Thank you so much, Dennis, and glad to be here and happy to talk about and unpack the opportunities that ACFTA holds for us. We all know that ACFTA will be the largest free trade market in the world, bigger than America, USA, Europe. So we definitely need to take up the opportunities and address the challenges that we have currently. I am the president of OWIT. OWIT is Organization of Women in International Trade. We are a membership association and a member chapter of OWIT International, which is in the USA. We have 32 chapters across the world and 10 chapters here in Africa. So we take advantage of this network for us to be able to do international trade together. We network, we educate, we build professionals and leaders among the women that we serve, who are over 500 members in Kenya, if I may be specific. And we do this through these 4 objectives, that is capacity building. So on a monthly basis, we have trainings that support our members, build our members' capacity and skills to be able to trade either locally, regionally, and internationally. The second one is market access, where we create opportunities for showcasing your product or just having a view of what the other markets are doing. So we take advantage of trade fairs that are happening, trade missions that are there, and we take our members to go in just for them to be able to have a global outlook of what they should be developing in their businesses. Then we also have the third one, which is financial access, where we partner with various financial institutions to provide finances for our members. You know that finances is one of the biggest challenges that we go through or that one of the challenges that are a barrier for scaling up our businesses. And the last one that we really focus on is on mentorship. Mentorship is key, where you're able to understand and know that others have done it before, and how do we tap into the experience that they have for us to be able to grow our businesses. So our main goal in OWIT is to foster international trade and the advancement of women in business. Thank you, and I look forward to an engaging discussion on ACFTA. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pauline, and great to have you on board from OWIT. And you've made my work very easy for creating a context across all some of the areas that we'll be discussing. So it's great to have you on board. Lastly, I'll invite Moronge Obonyo, who is joining us also as one of the panelists. Welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here. My name is Moronge Obonyo. I'm a lawyer. I specialize in commercial law, international trade law, and generally the law of contract. I teach at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, and I also run an ASSEK an Africa and International Trade Law program at the International Relations Society of Kenya. I'm also an author. I've written a book on contract law, which is my forte. So I'll be here largely to talk about the legal aspects of the Africa continental free trade area. So thank you. I look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's good to have the legal minds amongst us this morning, and also an author. Very great, and we're humbled to have you on board. And ladies and gentlemen, you will be sure that one of the issues that SMEs cope up with is when they are handling trade is navigating the legal terrain as well as compliance. So in most of the introduction from the panelists, one of the most significant thing that has come up that I've captured as an highlight is the issue of financial readiness. And I'd like just to set the tone to begin this conversation this morning with Dr. Allen coming from Venture Lift, and he has worked in this space quite a lot, seeing how SMEs are unlocking finances and seeing really what are some of the incentives or initiatives that are in place that a business as an SME out there who is looking to scale up their business and their product lines to be able to trade in Africa. What are some of the funding opportunities and how can they make them ready to tap into those opportunities?
Thank you, Dennis. Let me just say a few words about my background. So I came here to Nairobi in 2015 to run the transaction team for the East Africa Trade and Investment Hub under the role of Director of East Africa for Cross Boundary. But previously I worked at the IFC, investing across emerging markets, and particularly on special project with the CEO there to empower and advance SMEs. And in the US was an investment banker and venture capital investor. So I'm really excited about this topic because, as you know, the best of plans oftentimes don't come to fruition, but not because of a lack of talent or a good product market fit analysis, but because of funding. And that's particularly the case of SMEs and MSMEs throughout the world. And so what I would say, first of all, is that it's really, really important as companies go out to fundraise that they factor in customer acquisition. And if you have a product that you will trade, a cushion for trade finance as well. Oftentimes entrepreneurs aren't mindful of that should be part of their fundraise, but rather focus on CapEx or staffing or some other part of operations. The second thing I would say is there are obscurely known, but I think well-established institutions that provide trade finance. These are typically banks, but now there are other institutions that are smaller financial institutions that have seen the opportunity set that is, as my colleague reminded us, the continental free trade area in Africa, and have now focused on that. The third thing I'll say is that it's really, really important to have a good finance manager on board. And it's really hard for CEOs, many are so talented, to wear every hat. So that's where I would say that it is best to err on the side of overcompensating in terms of having someone who's great at financial management. Even as you're growing, if you can't do that initially, be able to outsource that service through an advisory firm. And so what we see also is that there is a need for trade insurance. There are opportunities for that. And with the complexity and the diversity of the continental free trade area, it's really important to understand some of the pockets of money that may exist from foundations, from family offices, to actually support now inter-Africa trade. Most Western nations understand that in addition to Africa trading with the West, which it has always done for the longest time, particularly the former colonial powers, it's essential for now the African continent to empower itself and trade among other African countries. And so there are mechanisms set up to do that, exist beyond government funding that are commercial, but there are smaller pockets of money as well.
Yeah, so just on that particular point, Dr. Allen, one of the biggest questions and one of the things that SMEs try to figure out is the issue of, there's one element of access. Is that monies or those finances, are they accessible? Then the other issue that they contend with is the issue of affordability. So please, could you just unpack for us that, so that we could really look at what options are there? Because from experience, we've seen that in some of the areas where you've mentioned, SMEs, where it is available, it is so expensive for them. They cannot really afford the credit. So are there other schemes? Like I know, like in the previous years, the Kenyan government, for example, and other stakeholders have been discussing the issue of a credit guarantee scheme as a way of making credit affordable. So is this something that, as we look around expanding into Africa, is this an option that could address the issue of affordability? So could you just comment briefly on the issue of access and affordability before we hear from the next panelist around a related issue around that?
Sure. I think that some of the underappreciated innovation comes not just in the product, but also in the social entrepreneurship, the hustle, as many say. And so I think it points to what you're just saying, that it's important to be entrepreneurial when it comes to finding, getting access to capital, but also affordable capital. I discourage early stage companies, particularly smaller companies, from borrowing. And the reality is sometimes you have to. But what is not also known, that there are now opportunities that the development finance institutions have set up to support inter-Africa trade, whereby companies can be part of a consortium and actually apply for funding through various mechanisms. With USAID, there's something called the Africa Trade Investment Program, ATI. There are grants available through that program, and you don't have to be American to actually receive those funding resources. And I would also say that many institutions now are listening to where the pain points are in financing, such that if it's possible for a collection or network of MSMEs or SMEs to come together and show what the funding demand is in their city, in their county, or in their country, it's possible now that a special mechanism, a financing vehicle, can be established to fund an array of companies. And I didn't know that myself until I started to push the envelope on raising money for companies that we work with. And so those are a couple of the things. I think I would also say that as you are able to connect what you do to other trade initiatives, for example, I mentioned the African Growth and Opportunity Act, there's funding available for that, right? And so I think this is really a question of being entrepreneurial and not just settling for the first opportunity, particularly if it requires you to borrow. Because as we all know, what oftentimes just stresses balance sheets and cap structures and the economic viability of companies is being over leveraged and not being able to handle the debt service going forward, especially when we have crises like we had with the pandemic, shocks to the economy as well. Then the last thing I'll say is this: I do think it is important to consider what I call mergers and acquisitions. So I used to be an M&A banker, and I know for many entrepreneurs, we all have our ego, we all have our drive and our personal vision. But I see so many companies in the ecosystem that are just one minor pivot away from doing something different, have a different name, and maybe chiefly are going after the same customers. And so I just want to encourage some of the audience to consider finding partners that may be your competition right now and joining forces so that you can combine forces economically and be able to attract more funding that way. And still achieve what you want to achieve as an entrepreneur, but have a partner to help you do it.
Fantastic. So I think that's quite commendable. And Dr. Allen has mentioned something quite fundamental around, first of all, looking at beyond what we know as the traditional financing options as a way of looking at this, because he says there's a lot of funding from the development partners, which is available as pool where we can be able to look into. And I like the last point where he mentioned that we should now start thinking about how businesses can come together and kind of partners. I think we're talking about ventures and acquisition is more high level, but I think at SME level, we could talk about how we can come together and have joint ventures that we can be able to pursue business together along our value chains or areas of common interest. So thank you so much for putting up that context. I'd like to bring Pauline, because she, in her introduction, she gave a wonderful exposition about how they work and where they have presence in many African countries. And maybe there's someone in this forum today and really asking the question, why should we bother so much as an SME who is doing their trade in Bomet County? Why should they think so much going to do their trade at the African level? So Pauline, could you just help us to understand that? And also coming from an organization that works so much with women, when you talk about intra-Africa trade, is there a place or are there opportunities there for women to do trade? Because we already know, like from a Kenyan perspective, there are already some barriers of entry, and the playing field is not very level, and I think that is those are some of the areas OIT is working on. But you could tell us from an African perspective, why should we be bothered to do trade at that level? Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's always important to, and just to give accreditation to Wilmot, whom has been my trainer. I remember when he mentioned in one of the classes that finance should not be a broccoli. And for sure, it's important that every SME that is here should be able to understand their financial health, for them even to be able to move across the borders. Do you understand the financial health?
Pauline,
do you understand?
Pauline, let me just cut you short a bit slowly. So ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is ongoing and the chat room is still open. You could put in comments there, you could put in your questions there, so that we do not miss on some of the good insights that are also coming from the audience as our panelists continue giving us these insights and sharing with us. Thank you. Proceed, Pauline.
All right, thank you. So I'll just talk about financial health, and it's really important that you keep your records together. Make sure, even as you are thinking of trading within Africa, that your records are in place. You understand the inflation, you understand the market landscape of where you are going to, you understand the currency. And back to your question on why I think that intra-Africa has a lot of opportunities for us is because it has been identified that we have 1.3 billion people. So if you're selling to maybe just 1 million people in Kenya, you now have a whole landscape. You have many other people you could trade with within Africa, a 1.3 billion population with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion. So we can bring this up. They say by 2025, we should have brought this up to about 6.66 trillion by 2030, because Africa is fast growing. It is urbanizing. We are becoming urbanized. The mobile access is growing. We are moving into digitization. So we need to open up our mindsets and open up the market beyond our country to other regions. We have so much more that we can offer within the African landscape. There is, we can say, like the cocoa beans, which you can find in Ghana. There is shea butter that you can find. We have many of our entrepreneurs here in Kenya who are using, who are making products out of the shea butter. So apart from Kenya, Uganda, which is within the regional bloc, the EAC regional bloc, and the advantage of also trading within your regional bloc is because the tariffs and the non-tariff barriers have been eliminated. So that's something that also SMEs need to know, have information about what are the trade infrastructures right now? What are those non-tariff barriers? What are the preferential trade initiatives that are being played within the EAC community, and even beyond the EAC community? Ghana and Kenya are one of the guided, who are under the guided trade initiatives. How do you have that information, and where do you get that information from? So it is important that we get to know about that. So yes, we need to go beyond Kenya, beyond your own country, and go on and expand, because Africa is fast growing and you do not want to be left behind. Come up with innovative ways of doing your things, standardizing them, ensuring that they are of good quality, and trade with your brothers and sisters across the borders. When you talk about women and trade, women and youth, there've been a lot of barriers, especially for women. And we saw that especially during COVID time, where the woman has a lot of responsibilities at home. So some of them had to leave work for them to now take care of their families. Others had to close their businesses for them to take focus on their families. So that's some of the barriers. But with digitization, we can say that women can take advantage of the digital space, have websites, partner with other e-commerce websites, and be able to trade your products across borders, and join associations of like-minded women like yourselves for you to be able to trade. I'm happy that there's the Women and Youth Protocol that has been introduced, because we know women and the youth have unique needs. So that will be addressed. There's an implementation plan that is coming up, and I would encourage every woman that is here to join their regional, their national committees. So we have one shared voice where we address and ensure that the policies that are being put in place are more favorable for women to be able to trade, because with gender equality, both for men and women, then we are able to have a prosperous Africa without leaving anyone behind. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree this topic really flows into her bloodstream. She's mentioned something so important about markets that comes with this initiative, the ASSEK, and I'm very much interested to know, maybe Dr. Muteshi will help us to understand this. When we look at the market, there's always the challenge of SMEs trying to figure out how do we enter this market. And again, on the contrast of that, are the products that are produced by SMEs, are they market fit and are they market ready? And are there initiatives currently which SMEs can think about on how they can brand themselves? Pauline has talked about leveraging technology, creating websites, taking advantage of social media to put themselves out there. But I'm wondering, like from a marketing perspective, and you're an expert around this area, are we doing enough to help SMEs to be able to market themselves and to brand their products so that they can be of this required standard at that international level?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Once again, I want to reinstate that free trade area presents both an opportunity and a threat. The strong SMEs will see it as a threat. The strong SMEs will see it as an opportunity, and the weak SMEs will see it as a threat. Why do I say this? People do not buy what they have never heard about. So then the role of marketing in terms of expanding your markets and reaching out to other African countries depends on how aggressively you are able to take the word out there. And also, I would like to restate that assuming you produced a product and decided to not to talk to anybody about it, and I would say it's like winking at a girl in darkness and you're expecting the girl to respond. So sometimes you could say shop now open, but then you go there, you find the shop is closed. So our SMEs are operating in a sense that we are saying shop now open, but when the person walks there to buy, they find the shop is closed. So the question is, how are we taking the word out there and how are we identifying the opportunity out there? I've read about Africa having a barrier of accessibility, that the region is not well connected, but Africa is able to get products from Europe and China. So how is the Chinese market, SME able to access your market when you cannot access the market in Uganda and Ethiopia? I tend to feel that for a product to leave China to reach Ethiopia, it would have left Uganda, reached Ethiopia earlier. So then the issue of barriers of accessibility, we need to rethink around it and tell to ourselves, how aggressively can we tap into the opportunities? The free trade area means that you are able to reach 1 billion customers. But if you want to lock the borders, then you are only able to reach the 10 million customers in your country. So then we have opportunities, yes, on the internet. Just a quick search of knowing what does Uganda and South Africa require and how does that present an opportunity for your market. We also have a challenge that most of our SMEs are talking of, they want to go to China, they want to go, but nobody is saying I want to go to Uganda and see what I can sell there. So embracing visiting African countries, intra-African tourism is one of the ways we can be able to access the markets to get to know what can we sell in other countries. The other thing that we find is about market intelligence. And market intelligence, even without visiting, a simple call and trying to link up with other stakeholders to get to know what is available for the market for you to sell in other countries in important. Most SMEs may not be able to do a proper market research, but pulling resources together through associations, we can be able to commission a market research and try to do a research around Africa and get to know that what are the needs. How do we then partner? We get the sense that we feel the high competition and our industries are crying for protection from the government, which is a good thing. But my question would be, if you want to sell bread and I sell Blue Band, we can still partner. I produce my bread and you produce your Blue Band, and we are all benefiting from this market. A quick Google search from online about African products and also a Google search about Kenyan brands, I get Ankara, some earrings and beads. And I feel that we are more than that. There's so much we are producing, but we have not put it out there. And so our product has remained local at a community level. And this brings me back to the question of branding. What is the name of your product and who knows about it? You could be having a product. Some of us have a product that does not have a name. Yes, it is bread, but what is the name of your bread? And how many people can be able to call your bread by name? So branding is very important, and being able to package a product and putting it out there for people to get to know. And you realize that you have to utilize various channels of communication for people to be able to know that you have this type of bread and you are able to sell it. So bread is just one of those things that you are producing. But I believe in Africa, we produce so many things. We fail to brand this product. We fail to position it in the market. So you want to access a market, but you have not carried the product to the place where people need it. So accessibility of your product, immediately after you have branded your product, you need to place it on a shelf in a country where now people are able to access it. So creating awareness about your brand is not enough, but you have to transfer that product to a place where people can easily access. So SMEs suffer from a challenge of a boom of, we all go marketing, we create awareness on social media, and the next question somebody asks, where can I get this product? And we start going around. So marketing our products and market access cannot stop at branding and awareness and social media. It also goes into partnerships and knowing who can be able to stock your product, who can you partner with? So when we talk of partnership, not everybody out there is your competitor. Some of these people would help to stock their product. They help you access their market in their countries, and you help them access market in Kenya. You help them access market in Tanzania. So the element of sharing information freely without being scared of competition can help our SMEs thrive. Speaking of branding, some of our SMEs would think you just get a product, you put a very good package, you get a very good designer, and wow, it goes into the market. But that type of marketing will not take long before you lose the customer. Once the customer tests the product and is not able to meet their expectation, they are likely not to continue buying your product. And this comes to the product specification and the consumer needs. Are we able to do some research within the countries on the tastes of these people, of what they require before we produce our product? So sometimes we get that you have a product. I'll give an example of milk. And I go to the shelf, I'll buy a brand and I don't buy it again. Maybe the brand had a different taste that I do not like. And so then doing a research about your consumers, getting to understand what the consumers want, and designing your product based on the consumer tastes and preferences helps you to beat the competition. Once people love the taste of your product, it doesn't matter how much you're going to sell this product, they need it anyway. And I'll give you an example of our communication in Kenya, where you complain that given brand cost is very high for communication, but you're not even leaving the network. You're just there crying, but you still buy their airtime, you still buy their internet. It is because the internet and the airtime has met your needs that you are not able to leave this brand. So a strong brand that meets the needs of the consumers and the customers' preferences is able to survive any type of competition in the market. And now the last thing would be that is about the affordability of this product. You can produce a very good product, brand it so well, but people are not able to afford your product. So then when you're doing your research, you need to look at the willingness and ability to pay. A product you want to sell in Uganda, how much are you going to produce this product at for you to be able to sell in Uganda? So sometimes we find that we say other countries are bringing in cheap products and our products are not able to sell. This brings back to how do we organize ourselves to be able to produce efficiently, effectively, the volumes that are required at a lower cost. And by lowering the cost of production, then you are able to get your product affordable, and then it can be able to meet the needs of the so many customers that you like to reach out to. So mostly in Africa, you look at our poverty levels, you find that majority of the population would want to have an affordable product, but affordable product not necessarily must be bad. So in the process of product development, look at the affordability part of it, look at the branding part of it, and look at how accessible and acceptable is this product. Therefore, SMEs need to normalize investing in product development, investing in branding and marketing. And just to conclude, you find that Mostly we want to invest in a good finance manager and just get a salesperson who is frustrated to be paid maybe $10,000 or $100 or $50 to be our marketer. So I think it's a high time we invest in seeking,
I think we've lost Dr. Muteshi.
Sorry, somebody muted me.
Oh, sorry, apologies for that.
Just to conclude that
Had you finished?
I was concluding that SMEs need to invest in research for product development, technology, and innovation in order to lower the cost of production, improve the branding and market access. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muteshi. You've mentioned quite a lot in, I think it was a masterclass in itself in your submissions about what product development is. And for the highlight for me is about looking at how we can look on the issue of marketing and branding broadly beyond marketing. And you further reinforce the point that Dr. Allen had mentioned before about looking at joint ventures around that. I wanted to bring in Advocate Morengo Bonyo, but before that, Dr. Allen has requested that he will be stepping out because of another engagement. But before he leaves, I just wanted to him to just share with us briefly some of the very practical, because many of the people in this call, some of them are SMEs and some of them are doing initiative around financing. And we just really wanted to understand from a very, very practical perspective, what are some of the things or some of the initiatives that are happening currently that SMEs are able to plug in on, so that we can address the issues like some of the things Dr. Muteshi is talking about, looking at research and development to enhance our product, investing in technology. Pauline had told us around that. What are some of the financing that are able, because you're talking about trade finance, and just help us to understand that bit, so that as we leave out of this call, we may know exactly what we should start looking out of, instead of just thinking, oh, we need money to buy more stock.
Right. So thank you. And thank you for having me again. I'll just say that I'll start with what we're doing and focus on that. That's a live opportunity. So VentureLift Africa is currently recruiting companies to help them scale throughout the country and region, and then ultimately into other global markets like the US. And we do have trade finance partners that are available, as well as advisors that provide technical assistance to help in terms of management consulting as well. And that is live. We will soon announce our presentation of a digital marketplace and e-commerce platform that will start as B2B. And we're excited about recruiting for that, and hope to encourage you all to consider that. And should I, Dennis, say what our contact information is? You can reach us at info@vlafrica.com. You can find out more.
Perhaps you could leave it on the chat, just some of the participants who may need to touch base with you maybe after that. And of course, I'm sure your contacts are also available with the ASSEK team. So feel free. Thanks so much for joining us today for the panel. We'll have wished to have you for many more minutes, but we appreciate that you have other competing engagements. And thanks, and let's keep engaging. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You'll have our blessings to proceed for your meeting. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll just bring in Advocate Moronge, who are on a very specific issues about compliance and the legal requirements. So the opportunities that Pauline had told us are available and that we are all gearing to may look very lucrative, and that's actually where we should focus. But we know sometimes some of these opportunities, as Dr. Muteshi had said, are some challenges, and one of those challenges are legal. And from experience, I know SMEs struggle a lot with issues of compliance and regulation, as well as legal. So could you just paint for us briefly, Wakili, so that we can be able to understand what are some of those challenges that, if I'm to start my business and I want to trade in Ghana, for example, that I will have to contend with, and then how do we go about them so that we can unlock those opportunities? Welcome.
Now, known as a trade agreement that goes beyond the traditional, just tariff reduction, because the AFCFTA covers a wide range of agreements. There's a protocol on trade in goods, a protocol on trade in services, dispute settlement, intellectual property, competition law, investment protection, and there's one on digital trade that is still being discussed. And so some of the legal issues that you need to address that are covered by AFCFTA are things to do with, what are known as behind the border measures. One of the requirements of the AFCFTA is that all countries must treat goods and services or imports from other territories as the way they treat their own, what's known as national treatment. In other words, you cannot and should not discriminate. And to that extent, so the question of how much your government protects you becomes one that is live and subject to legal sanction, can attract legal sanction. Dr. Allen talked about, for instance, spoke about mergers and partnering and so on and so forth. Now, under the agreement, there's a protocol on competition. So if you're going to merge with others, you must seek the approval of a relevant competition authority. There is one that is to be set up under the FCFTA so that you don't merge and distort competition and push out others unfairly. It's supposed to operate in a similar manner to competition authorities at national level. And so before you merge, you must seek compliance and approval that, well, you're not going to distort authority competition. In respect of SMEs, I don't think there will be a threat to competition. But then if you have a situation whereby big banks are going to be merging across the continent, then that will invite sanctions. And again, you've also got to appreciate the background as against which the FCFTA was put into place, because it's supposed to create a continental market so that you've got convergence and economies of scale in African markets. Because one of the reasons why Africa has not advanced as much as it should, despite the natural resources and opportunities and so on, is because you don't have economies of scale. You have about 54 small countries that are fragmented economies and higher levels of poverty and so on. And so to benefit from the economies of scale, a continental market is supposed to be created, and the continental market is supposed to rest on some legal framework that provides for fair rules of play. Now, as Dr. Muteshi spoke, she talked about the agreement being both a challenge and an opportunity. Of course, if you're small and you really cannot compete, you'll probably see it as a challenge. But therein lies the opportunity, because you have a legal framework that requires your products to be treated equally as others. She also spoke, Dr. Muteshi also spoke about branding. Now, that also speaks to intellectual property, trademarks, copyright, patents, and so on and so forth. The AFCFTA contains an intellectual property protocol, which seeks to protect intellectual property. And so if you register your trademark in Kenya, it's supposed to be recognized all across the continent. And so if you want to go and sell in Ghana, nobody should steal your intellectual property and start marketing or passing off their products under your trademark and so on. And so all these present opportunities whereby you can seek legal protection from big players who try to merge and distort competition, or try to push out of the market using unfair practices, or try to steal your intellectual property and so on and so forth. There is also, in respect of trade in goods, we have rules of origin. Because the FCFTA is supposed to liberalize trade in Africa, you're not supposed to be importing goods from else. You're passing them off as products from your territory. So you must comply with the rules of origin. A certificate of origin in a specific format is provided, and the rule is that the goods must either be sourced wholly from the territory of a member state or substantially processed in the territory of a member state. There are very technical rules which speak to what is processing, what is not processing. So, for instance, if you want to export beef, the only thing you did was to slaughter a cow in your country. Now, slaughtering does not amount to processing under the technical rules of origin, under the annex on trading goods. And so all these things to do with customs compliance, tax compliance, and so on and so forth. Then you have also got product standards to do with sanitary standards, health standards, and so on and so forth. And so all these things that speak to compliance. And if you want to export and to take advantage of the trading system, you need to ensure that you comply. Well, for one, that's why people like me, lawyers, exist to help you go around the rules and navigate your way around the rules and comply, because the rules are very technical. But all in all, they do offer great opportunities for small-scale traders who are in compliance with the law to be able to export. Again, Dr. Allen and many people I've seen some questions asking about finance and so on. Strictly speaking, it's not only finance that you need also, because also compliance affects your bottom line. Because almost always a legal liability will result in some financial losses. So here you are, you have produced your goods, you're trying to sell them across the border. You get to the border, and you're told your goods don't comply with the sanitary standards in this territory, and so on and so forth. And so one must also ensure that you're in compliance with the rules that have been set in place.
Yeah, okay,
Finally,
maybe I could just stop you and ask you a question. Like, we really appreciate you really opened our eyes in terms of what we really look at, and the need to really comply, and bringing us to the reality that the legal issues we cannot run away. But here, one of the challenges that SMEs really face, first of all, is they deal with the fear of going to seek that legal advice. Yeah, because they are contending maybe with the cost, or I'm sure in this forum there are also the people who are struggling with the issues of the legal jargon. So how can we make this simple, and also make people to really appreciate that this is where we need to start from? Like, if I'm to take my avocados to Niger next week, what are some of the simpler things, even within the Kenyan jurisdiction, we can do? And I think, being Kenyans, we already know the challenges of inter-county trade. There are some of the things when you're moving from one county to the other, there's levies and there are costs that are associated with that. So what are some of the simple ways, and where do we, because again, I understand not every advocate is having specialization or leeway on these matters. So where do we start? Like, I know that is a question that will be very pertinent for those who are in this forum today.
Right. Every country under the agreement is supposed to designate a focal point. Typically, that's the customs authority and other authorities like the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, commonly referred to as KEFI. So if you are going to export agricultural products, you must seek the approval of KEFIs, and they'll be able to advise you what exactly it is you're supposed to sell, because there are many standards. So one of the important features of a transparent legal framework, like what the AFCFTA seeks to create, is a free flow of information and transparency, so that you're not shocked when your goods are at customs point. You're told, oh, your avocados do not comply. And so the first port of call is when you seek legal advice, is to see whether what rules are put in place and you need to comply with. There's supposed to be a clearinghouse for an exchange of information. In Kenya, it's supposed to be Ministry of Trade. I don't know how far they have gone in establishing this, because the last check, they're supposed to be a part of the AFCFTA strategy in Kenya. Uh, uh, Public sensitization, and they're supposed to inform the public. This is the institution that you're supposed to come and see, and so on. And so, what I would advise is you should not fear seeking legal advice. What you're saying, then, is you're concerned that many SMEs fear going to see lawyers is true because of the cost, but that's because for the longest time, we've always imagined that legal services are only for the wealthy people, things to protect, property to protect, and so on and so forth. But that is not entirely true, and so there's a vast playing field, and we can see there are many law firms that are now coming up, especially with things like AI, and you can offer legal services to a much wider number of people at low cost. And so you offer the advice, you tell them these are the forms that you need to fill if you're trading in goods, and so on and so forth. So the most important thing actually is simply being informed. As long as you're informed and you know what compliances you need to meet, then you'll be able to navigate your way around. The issue of having too many forms to fill locally is also a problem, and it's quite an irony, because here we are opening up a continental market, but domestically every county is putting up roadblocks all over the place, and so on, and so on. But anyway, that's why we do have this system that is to iron out all those things. Now, the last thing I'm to mention is the dispute settlement, because now, in respect of the AFCFTA, there's now a dispute settlement mechanism. Private parties, commercial parties, cannot approach it directly, and so you need to maintain free flow of information between yourselves as the private sector players and the government, because your government is the one that is going to file a complaint against another government. It's a new trading system, and so as of now, it's probably too soon to start making judgments. But over the long term, as it gains traction and more trade is undertaken under AFCFTA, complaints come, and the dispute settlement body keeps on settling disputes and so on. We'll be able to have a clearer picture and a more seamless system of trading, and an understanding of the rules and the transparency that is necessary. Right. Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks so much, Wakili. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're still seeing some interesting conversation on the chat. I see a comment from Michael Kembo saying that on the issue of setting up joint ventures, we should start by setting up what you have to gain versus what you have to lose. By partnering with your competitor, you can increase your capacity and go for bigger work. She says that it's simple math, which is better 100% of 1 million or 30% of 1 billion. Great perspective there. So we are nearing to the end of our time, unfortunately. So I'd just like to bring on board Pauline, just to make some closing remarks. Then we'll have Dr. Mteshi. Then we'll close over with Wakili. Then we can open it up for a session of question and answer briefly. Then we'll bring this session to an end. We appreciate the time is less for some of the conversation here, because this is a wide topic, but we believe this webinar has opened your eyes to start thinking about some areas that can form part of the wider conversation. And even more importantly is to give feedback to ASSEK and choose live, so that we can be able to know which are some of the areas we can tackle in the forthcoming webinars. So welcome, Pauline.
Thank you so much. What I'd like to say to all of you, first, if you're running a business, is your business formal? Women have been known to run informal businesses. We need to stop that. Most of highest numbers, 80% of the women that are trading across borders are running informal businesses. For you to trade within intra-Africa and globally, you need to run formal businesses. So which means you need to make sure that you're not operating below the radar, get to know the compliances that are needed, register your business, pay your taxes, And then let's see how you grow after that. Do not be scared. You have lawyers that are concentrate on that do not charge a hefty fee and are able to advise. Joining associations like OWIT. If you're in manufacturing, there's Kenya Association of Manufacturers, there's Kenya Chambers. Joining such associations helps you unpack some of the challenges that you are going through, and we can handhold you to be able to do that. If you're able to start aggregating, come together for you to be able to trade within Intra-Africa, you may not have the financial muscle to be able to do it on your own. So collaborate with one another, aggregate your goods. If it's those avocados, look for another farmer and another one and aggregate and put them all in one container. Then logistics is going to become cheaper for you, and then prices that you offer your market will be also cheaper. So look at that. Join the various trade fairs that are there locally, regionally, internationally, for you to be able to now trade. Go as a participant, as a visitor. The next time, go as an exhibitor, because you'll have been able to know what you want. Join different digital market spaces. If you want to export and for the easiest way for you to understand that market is looking also for distributors, suppliers, resellers in that particular market. So have your export model canvas. Which country do you want to export? If it is Uganda, look for distributors there, and then they'll be able to identify for you the different stores you can sell to, what the customer is like, what are the export documents that are needed, and just have a hunger to learn. Do not give up. Go on, take advantage, be one of the first pioneers to become billionaires in Africa. Take advantage of ACFTA, be in that space. Dr. Moronge asked if there's any focal point. We have the Ministry of Trade. There's a ACFTA office that is there that OWIT works closely with. And we are trying to see how to unpack this ACFTA. Their officers seem to be so busy. So we are like, use OWIT, use ASSEK, use other associations that can help you disseminate this information faster to the MSMEs in Kenya, so that we move fast and take advantage of the opportunities that are there. As women, the women in this call, do not give up. Invite yourself to the table. If you're not invited, pull a chair, bring value to the table, and let us develop gender-friendly policies together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Dr. Mteshi, welcome to closing remarks.
Thank you very much once more. I just want to summarize that first of all, if people don't buy your product, it's because they have never heard of it. If they have heard of it and they don't buy, it's because they have never tested. If they test and they don't come back to buy, it's because they did not like it. So then the question becomes to our SME is that there's enough market for everyone. But then what do we need to do for us to tap into the market? We need to invest in research for product development. Get to know what people want and produce exactly that, and they will buy it. Get to know how much they're willing to pay for that product. Get to know where they want to buy it from. Don't take it to a supermarket if they want to buy it from the streets. Don't put it online if they want to buy it from the house. So it's about getting to understand your customers, how they want it, where they want it. And also, don't fear competition. Learn from your competitor, improve your product. And that will mean that all our SMEs are able to thrive in the space that we have. Learn to specialize. Let us not be a Me Too product where all of us want to produce bread. we can produce something else that the market is lacking. And the only way to know that is through a market research and developing a product that addresses a need and a gap in the market, and not trying to produce what everybody else is producing. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, Wakili, some closing remarks.
Thank you. Thanks again, Dennis. As I pointed out earlier, it's important that you play within the rules, because any legal liability will result in some financial loss on your part. And so it's important, firstly, to understand the rules as you try to push your market, your product to market, and to take advantage of the trading system. Under the AFCFTA, the Secretariat has set up an SME financing mechanism that is still being developed and tested and so on. And so if you are in the SME space, it's something good to find out more information about that and see what you can tap into. Again, also, there are some priority areas that have been listed. In the area of goods, the idea is to liberalize up to 90% of tariff lines, and countries have been allowed a margin of 3% that you can protect maximum. There are some, it's supposed to be done over 5 years by all countries, but then if you're a least developed country, then you've got 15 years. In the service trade, there are some priority sectors: business services, transport, financial services, and tourism and communication services. And I think if you're in Kenya, communication services and financial services are quite a strong selling point for Kenya. So if you're in that space, then talk to your advisor or a lawyer. I'm also in practice. I do legal advisory work for particularly SMEs. I'm based in Ajip House, so you can come, we have a conversation, and we'll help you navigate the rules. So look for those priority sectors, your strong selling points, and ensure that you're within the law. So, as in all other areas of life, as you consult your tax expert, also consult your lawyer. Thank you. I mean, it's a world of opportunities. You are the one who has got to go out and grab them, and you need someone to walk with you the journey. We're happy to do so. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wakili. The last thing, the last words that pull a chair, let your voice be known, be an expert of something, and lastly, play by the rules. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. All of us will have wished to have, as I said, this is just an eye to begin this conversation. Thank you so much for being me as your moderator, and also for your active participation. This conversation continues. I was seeing one of the comments in the chat room that there's a request for the recording of this webinar that will be availed on the email that you used to register for this session, and additional materials and links will be shared by ASSEK, and there's a particular request that touches on the links on the various SME support platforms that are available. Without much ado, I'd like to welcome Brian, who is our host, to make the final remarks, then we can call it a day. I wish you a fantastic week ahead, and let's continue engaging with each other. Thank you so much, and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis, and the panelists, Pauline, Hilda, Dr. Hilda Muteshi, and Advocate Morongi, and also Dr. Wilmot and Absentia for that powerful panel discussion on how we can leverage the opportunities that are within Africa, so that we can tap within, or rather you can tap the market. So I would like to take you through, or rather now to continue with the conversation that I had started earlier before the panel discussion on the MSME acceleration program, creating one African market and linking the MSMEs to Intra-Africa Trade. So currently applications are open, and I would like to show you just a moment. I would like to show you how you can apply for this particular program if you are in Nairobi, Machakos, Laikipia, Bomet, Turkana, or Uasin Gishu. So there's a link here. We'll also put it in the chat for you to register. You can register directly, and the deadline is quite short. This call has been running for quite some time. So, but you still have a chance, as the deadline was extended to tomorrow, 30th August, and you'll be contacted on the 31st of August. So you'll be able, you can click on this on the chat right now. There is the link to apply, and there's an eligibility criteria, and one of the largest, or rather one of the main eligibility criteria is you are supposed to be in the same 6 counties. So if you are in those counties, feel free to apply at the moment. And the sectors, as mentioned, we have manufacturing, we have agro processing, we have agro processing, we have manufacturing, creative and beauty. We have IT and technology. So you can apply if you are in those sectors. I'll also be sharing more information on email on how you, or rather with the link and also the eligibility criteria. But even before that, that will be for reference. I can show you that the eligibility criteria looks at this way, that you must be at a growth stage, at least have a minimal annual turnover 5 to 10 million. This is in Kenya shillings. Have an existing customer base, have a clear product that is, or rather, a value proposition for your business, and at least have a staff of two employees, 2 full-time staff, and you should also be committed to going through this, or rather participating in all the workshops of this program. It's 4 months, but the benefits are really massive. You get to meet, or rather, meet industry mentors, go through the acceleration program with access to other entrepreneurs, training material and curriculum that has been really vetted, that is very effective, and we'll be able to also meet other entrepreneurs who have been successful. Not to mention that there's also a lot of access and network when it comes to access to finance, and also a network to other individuals who can help you navigate through the program in terms of Africa trading in African markets. So I will welcome any questions at this particular moment. Let me fill this down. So I don't, Joseph had his hand raised. You can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I was just asking where we shall start the process, and I think you said that we first of all register online, then maybe you'll take us through after registering. Now, what next? What shall we do next after the registration? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. After registering, definitely there will be a shortlisting and a selection of the participants, definitely based on the eligibility criteria, and then you will be contacted on the next steps of the program. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have answered. And I was also maybe wondering, what is this criteria that will be used to know that you have customer base, yeah, especially that one of the customer base. How will you know that somebody has the customer base?
Definitely, your annual turnover will definitely inform if you already have a customer base, because we want to believe that if you don't have a customer base, definitely your turnover will inform that.
So does it mean that now I will produce my bank statements or what?
No, right now, definitely, if you are selected later on, we will definitely do a little bit of digging to just ensure that you have provided the correct information.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Any other question? You can lift your hand. Also, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Okay. As we wait for more questions, I can see Mr. Maronge has requested to leave. He has another meeting. And, so thank you very much, Maronge, for being part of this and also giving me great insights. We hope to engage you again as this conversation on unlocking intra-Africa trade continues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice afternoon, all. Sorry, I have to leave.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I can see we don't have any other questions, but my email is open. My email is open. I will share it with you here. So just in case you have follow-up questions, project at ASSEK.ke, I'll be able to answer any of your questions. So Gideon, we did an extension of the deadline and also communicated through posters. So the deadline is tomorrow, so 30th, which will now see the kickoff of the program on 1st September. All right, if we don't have any other questions, thank you. I would like to thank you for attending this webinar. This is just one among the many that we will have throughout this program, and we hope that you'll be able to attend all of them so that you can definitely create a network and also capture the great insights with the experts that we will be bringing along. So thank you very much. Joseph, you have another question?
Yeah, maybe you can tell us the next meeting when it will be, or when we shall start now the meetings. That I think we should be having more meetings so that we be more enlightened about this competition that is about to come.
We will definitely keep in touch with you through email, and so we have your contact details, and I will be updating you each time that we have a session.
Thank you.
Maureen, go ahead.
Afternoon, everybody. So my question is, excuse me, are we going to be grouped together with other people from other countries? Like, is this program only running in Kenya currently, or you're also having parallel programs like this running in other African countries? Then you can bring all of us together. Like, what's the end game here?
So as I mentioned earlier, we are doing, or rather we are focusing on enhancing MSMEs access to intra-Africa trade. This is part of a bigger program the Kenya MSME Olympiad is part of the larger Africa MSME Olympiad, which will now see there will be a competition definitely that will come later on after we complete this uh, program now in Kenya. But that is to be communicated later. But right now we are focusing on running this program in the regions as mentioned. So Turkana, Machakos, Uasin Gishu, Bomet, Laikipia, and Nairobi. Maureen, I hope I've answered your question.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I can see Jackson is asking a question. Will startups who are gearing to enter the market be eligible? The revenue? Jackson, you have to have revenues between at least 500,000 Kenya shillings to 10 million shillings. Okay, any other question? Okay, if not, thank you very much for attending today's session. We are very happy to have you. Thank you to our amazing panelists for being able to get these great insights, and also many thanks to our very able moderator, Dennis Okoye. Hoping to see you again, and let's keep in touch. I'll share the recordings for reference purposes. Have a good afternoon, everybody. See you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.